Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Espresso Yourself Morning Coffee Review. This week, we've got Ray Blowers joining us from our MEP team, and we're going to talk about a whole bunch of crazy things. So on that note, as always with these Espresso Yourself editions, these are more conversational based, looking to share some industry wisdom and knowledge and experience to hopefully inspire you to, if you're contemplating a career change or learning something new or anything like that. It's not as technical as our normal ones. So if you were hoping for a demo or learning or something, that's going to be next Tuesday. But feel free to put answers in the chat or questions in the chat. We'll see what we can do to help you out as we go. That said, good morning, Michael. How's it going?
You're like, Michael, let me just kick it to you first before you interrupt. It's good. So we're still hot out here in the Grand Canyon State. But we're excited going out on finally taking some time off this week. So I'm excited about that. But yes, so back to Jason's comment that, if you are here for technical content, that'll be next week. And just a little heads up, Mr. Arley will be flying solo because of that PTO time. So he's more excited than anyone else to go through and do some technical training on there. But yes, if you do have questions, it looks like Jolene has her hand up. I don't know if you have a question, feel free to ask us a question in the chat, or raise your hand. Either one works. But we're excited today to have Ray on. Thanks, Ray, for joining us today. We'll give you a little introduction to yourself, if you'd like, about what you do here at ATG, and then we'll start asking questions and start having an open dialogue. But again, at any point, if anyone has any questions, feel free to use the chat feature or the Q&A. Again, this is less technical. This is more about Ray telling his story versus Jason and Michael's show. So let's start off with Ray. Give us a little info about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ray Blowers. I am the MEP Consultant Lead here at ATG. And what that means is I do a lot of things on the MEP side here at ATG. So with consulting, we go through and do training, and we have to cover a lot of different software and packages that we do training with. And one of them that I'm near and dear about is Bluebeam. I love Bluebeam. So that's why I'm here. I'm sharing that love that Michael and Jason have as well. But it's not just training, it's workflows. Hey, what do we need to do inside of it? How can we help you work better with your different software packages that you have? And again, that's where Bluebeam comes in. It fills a really cool niche inside here. So I've been here about, I would say I'm going on my 11th month here. I've worked in the reseller space before, and I'm really liking the energy and everything that ATG brings to our clients and to everyone else here. And I mean, my goodness, we have a coffee review here. We're talking Bluebeam and just having a great time.
Awesome, Ray. So let me ask you one question. Where did you start in the industry? Was it back in school? Was it academic? Where was your first point that you knew you wanted to be in the AEC space?
That goes back to high school. So that's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So it was in high school. I was learning electronics.
Hold on real quick. Are you a Star Wars fan? Is that why you said galaxy so far away?
Hey, there is a little bit of love in Star Wars there.
Yes.
So yes.
I figure you're part of the Star Wars chat, right? With Brian
Yes.
Lee? Okay.
Oh yes. But I also enjoy the other sci-fi genres. So I'm not going to say, hey, I'm not going to hate on them. I enjoy them as well. So, but the love's there for Star Wars. But it goes back to high school. I was going to school. I took a lot of shop classes, so I'm working with my hands, and I tried out building trades, and that wasn't quite my niche, but electronics filled that space. And then I went off to the college and started thinking about this. And at one point, my major was architecture.
And
so
I feel like if some folks didn't know, what I wanted to be was a licensed architect. Artley also, right? And now Ray, that's awesome.
Yeah, And it started there, but college wasn't my thing at that time, you know. As a young man, you want to go out and enjoy life, and I enjoyed life a little too much. So so college wasn't working out for me, and so
Sure.
I went out and started working. And one of the first jobs had was working in construction. I was doing rough end framing. So that ties back into all the shop classes and everything else. And well, I didn't stick with it. It wasn't my niche. And then from there, I got into trucking industry and transportation, so logistics. Well, that changed a little bit. So I went back to school because of an injury and said, let's go back. You enjoyed drawing, you enjoyed drafting in high school. You were architecture major. Let's go back. Let's start with CAD. And so I went back to school and got my associate's degree in computer aided and drafting and design here in the Kansas City metro area from Metropolitan Community Colleges.
So
And so
you
that
went to
started
a
my career.
community college, right?
Yes.
Very
And
cool.
from there, I had an internship, which was really cool. And from there, I got my first job. I love you, Alex, on that. And
It's
then,
always interesting to me to see like different tracks, because I had a conversation with somebody about school debt, right, and all of that, and where they got to and different tracks they can take instead of going to. I think we talked about it on here as well, to go to a 4-year university versus a trade school or a 2-year program. Wherever it takes you to where you're at now, it's great to understand there's a ton of different ways to get to this part of the industry.
yeah, and then it grew right into it. They did equip me. They go through the exposed to many different software. At the time, Revit was just coming on board to Autodesk, so I was introduced to Revit. Obviously AutoCAD and Inventor were some of the other softwares that I was playing with as well. So I was playing in Autodesk's wheelhouse. But the big thing that came out of it was an internship opportunity with a company that's no longer in business. It was acquired by another one. But I do want to give a shout out to one of the guys that mentored me, through the internship and then helped me start my career at the company called Sega. And that was Doug Sessler. I do want to just give Doug Sessler, and there's a couple other guys. William Allen was my advisor as well. So these two guys really helped shape my career moving into the CAD industry. And I started out as a drafter at Sega, working on utility plants. And that's where it started, as an electrical drafter and designer.
So designing utility plants.
Yes, and doing
Okay.
upgrades.
Okay. So like connecting substation to substation type of thing, or more transmission line, or I suppose that's the same thing.
I did do a little transmission and distribution, but most of my side of it was with my background in electronics, was the electrical side of controls inside the power. So it was power generation. So we were inside the actual power plant, making sure everything was feeding, the boilers and combustion turbines and all the automation that goes into that.
Very cool. That's a very complex industry.
Yes.
You
And
lost me, so I had no idea what you were just talking about. Substations, all of that. So with that, starting like in the industry, is there a reason why you went there? It was just something that was offered to this part of the industry, like after going to school. What led you into that field? Was it an opportunity that kind of kept you there, or?
yeah, it was an opportunity. I mean, it was that internship for one semester, working with them, getting real world experience in how to do design. It wasn't just going through and doing red line pickups either. They were teaching us how to use external references. They were teaching us how to go through and how do you collaborate in AutoCAD, was the primary software, inside of modeling inside of AutoCAD. So doing 3D modeling in AutoCAD. A lot of people don't realize if you have AutoCAD, you can do 3D modeling in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where
And
I
this
was
is
doing.
there's a couple of folks that use it, and then I always come back to the question: why aren't you, if you're already doing that, why aren't you in Revit?
Well, with power plants, the equipment, that's the big thing, is the families that go with it. You can't bring those families because they're complex. And a lot of those, they don't have 3D models of that. They may have a two-dimensional, or it might be an inventor model. So you have to go through that process of getting the different pieces of equipment and then migrate it over to Revit. And you can model inside there. And I have done that as well.
What do you
And
think's more efficient?
well, we take that approach with Revit. We don't want to make the families too complex. So we just want the basic geometry. You want to be able to occupy the space. You can do the same thing in AutoCAD, with sweeps, extrusions, everything, all the different items there. So actually that kind of led to that, is we were looking at evaluating, what is the best tool to do 3D modeling for electrical systems. And when we're talking electrical systems, we're talking, the underground conduits, where feet or the conduits there, and then cable trays to connect all the different pieces of equipment, because we can always model the equipment and what was the best way of doing it. And I had the chance to go through and evaluate between AutoCAD, AutoCAD MEP, and Revit. And it was Revit MEP at the time. We were able to go through and evaluate which one was the best one. And I even timed myself. I already knew how to do it in AutoCAD. I had to learn AutoCAD MEP how to do it, and then learn how to Revit. So it was very interesting to learn that. But there was only like a couple minutes difference between the three different programs to route cable tray and conduit, and there were pluses and minuses with that. So it was really interesting to see that and then present that to the company and say, hey, we could do it, we could save here, but there's this issue, versus using AutoCAD or AutoCAD MEP.
Yeah, Joshua just brought up a good example that work sharing is not enabled with AutoCAD as well. So larger projects
Right.
means one or like, I guess you'd work on a section and then kind of bring it over. Is that what you were going to say, Arlie?
I was, he mentioned that the stickler is the work sharing, that one person at a time in AutoCAD, and thinking on a bigger scale, coming from the civil side, it's still fairly one person at a time. And it always amazed me that at some point in this industry, there was a turning point, or like, what, it doesn't have to be like this. Right. And enabling that work sharing thing really opened up some opportunities. Do you remember, Ray, the first time that door was open for you, and like, how long has that been on your side?
It was when I was getting industry experience and growing at SIGA. It was actually external references was the answer. And since we were working on that, that's the closest to work sharing that we have to, if we were talking Revit, if we're comparing apples to apples, XREFs versus links. And so what we would do is based off discipline. So we would have the civil team would have many different drawings depending on what they were showing, site plan, the topo, they would have individual drawings, and they would link them in, or XREF them in, excuse me. I have to go back and forth on that.
Right.
And so that's what we did is, with the civil team.
Dust off the cobwebs.
Yep. And then the structure team as well, they would do the same thing, and they would use advanced steel and then AutoCAD as well. So they would make the different pad drawings, the grids, they would lay everything out as well. And so we could XREF those in. And whenever they made an update and saved, if you're working with their XREF, you get the little notification bubble at the bottom. Hey, they updated that. So it's the closest thing to work sharing collaboration. And of course, working with mechanical, and then you work with the electrical. That's how we were referencing and going through and say, hey, if this transformer is going here, this is where my stub ups for my underground are going to go. I have to make sure that everything's going to work with there. So I would collaborate with the structure to make sure that my transformer pad was sitting in the right location, and that we have our penetrations ready to come up so we can drop the transformer on the right location. And of course, they would have their bolt hole locations and everything lined up. So we would have to go through and do that. And then the good thing too, I learned on this one, I got to share it because Jason's here as a civil guy, is the difference between feet and inches.
Mm-hmm.
And with XREFs. And one of the big things that I've always remembered is, what units are you working in inside of AutoCAD? And so it was like, we would always be in inches. So we would always have to scale down the drawings from the civil team so they would line up, because I always come back to this as true size, true shape, and its true location, the three truths of AutoCAD right there. And so you make sure everything up. And then the same thing goes for the civil guys. If they need to look at any of the equipment that I'm bringing in, or my underground designs into the civil model, they would have to scale it up 12 times.
Yep. Done that 100 times, where you'd have to scale it up 12 by 12 one way or another, but civil usually should be tied to the earth and the proper coordinates and, units and stuff like that. So everybody else is in make-believe land, and then you got to move it over to the truth, which would be the civil side. But hopefully that's the case.
So I had to geek out a little bit, but that was my AutoCAD workflow. And so AutoCAD was the primary software that we used. I did have Adobe Acrobat. I know. I'm sorry, I'm disappointed that I wasn't modifying PDFs. I wasn't updating them.
I think we've all had Adobe at some point before
Yeah.
Bluebeam became the predominant solution for what we do. I mean, I used Adobe when I was at that windows and door company, until like later half of my part in that firm. But yeah, we used that and it was terrible. We would literally, because of how long it took, print out the sheets and mark up that way, versus marking up in Adobe. So, but yeah, back to it. Sorry.
Yeah. So, it was always funny like that is the engineers I was working under that, that were signing and sealing, they would have full blown Adobe so they can, security seal the PDFs with their signature and their seals. And I always thought that was a painful part. And I didn't know about Bluebeam at that time as my career was growing and I was getting into, the different processes. So, eventually, the industry took a dive, regulations, people weren't sure where they were going. Utility companies were trying to figure out where they were going. They were making the change from coal fire plants to natural gas with combustion turbines. And they're trying to figure
When
out
was that?
2015.
Okay.
It was kind of a rough year. It was really competitive market between those in the energy sector. And they were just, the projects were getting far and few between. And
Was
sadly,
that to reduce emissions?
yes.
Okay.
So the EPA at the time was really, getting stringent on that. And, it was also the energy market was changing because the consumers wanted something. They wanted less coal fire and they wanted something that's a little bit, but they still wanted that reliability that they had. So, they started looking at alternative, we're looking at windmills, and then we're looking at solar.
So you're saying that's around 2015, 2016 is when it really started.
Yeah. And then unfortunately I was part of the business was tough and I was part of a reduction in force. But, it opened up other opportunities.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yep.
Exactly. I don't believe in
I'm a big
coincidence.
fan of that. And everything always works out.
Yes. So that led me to my first experience with another Autodesk reseller. They also had Bluebeam, and that's when I was first introduced to Bluebeam. And I was playing with it. I didn't even have formal instruction on it. And they're going, "Hey, you get to use Bluebeam. What's Bluebeam?" And so we've got to go through and start learning how to play with Bluebeam. And that's when I got hooked. I mean, I'm still calling up all of my contacts I had in the industry and, "Man, you really need Bluebeam. You need Bluebeam. We're not going to buy anything."
Okay, no, you go, Jason.
Was it frustrating for you? Because I know, as someone who spent many long nights and weekends going through sheets and sheets of paper and markups and doing all that stuff, when I first got exposed to Bluebeam and seeing that you could do markups on a PDF, I was like, come on now, where's this been my whole life?
It wasn't
experience something similar?
I wasn't frustrated, but I did have that aha moment where it's
Mhm.
like, man, this is incredible. And I started playing with it. I wasn't my supervisor at the time. He, he says, "I hear just go ahead and do this." There wasn't much on training videos. I was just kind of looking at it, playing with it. And I saw how much of a similar CAD workflow, being familiar with AutoCAD, it's like, this is very similar to AutoCAD. And he just kept on playing with, oh, you could do this? Man, I'm loving this. And then, of course, you have Google, search engines are your friend.
Mhm.
It's like, how do I do this? And, it comes up several articles, you start reading them, and you just kind of experiment and play with it some more and more and more. And then you start talking to others that are using it that's more familiar with it. Oh, yeah, you could do this. Can you show me that? Absolutely. And so it just kind of grew into that.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think one of the turning points is like Jason was saying, I remember just marking up sheet sets, printing them out, throwing them away, the waste. So if
Yes.
you're coming from that point, it's leaps and bounds. If you're coming from some digital solution already, it comes with efficiency of what the solution can provide and more than just singular niche items for the AEC space. So, there's two different tracks you would say coming from a current solution that is a software based solution, but it's definitely leaps and bounds. There's a couple clients I've talked to recently that were coming from the hand markup days. Um, and it's the waste, the time, the back and forth. And if you're one of those people that scans, you mark up and then scan it in to send to somebody, that's even worse.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I had to do that a lot too because power plants, especially the coal fire plants, they were, they were done on paper and vellum. And so we would have to take them, scan them in and make TIFFs. And then we would XREF them in AutoCAD so we could mark up on them and use AutoCAD raster with it. So that it did take time and there was an art to scanning those things in. The other part
Absolutely.
and then you're right, the waste. Now that I think about it, I didn't even really, really think about it, but the workflow of going in there. So if you're out there printing out a set of drawings, so on the electrical side, with schematics and wire diagrams, you could have hundreds of drawings. And the only way to protect your drawings from other, because you're sharing, a printer with a couple other disciplines and engineering groups that would send it to the same printer location. So there'd be a couple different printers for different size paper. We were fighting for all
Mhm.
that time to print, and you're trying to get a drawing set out for your engineer. It was always frustrating, but the answer was combine them into one PDF and no one can get their drawings mixed in. And then you send that to the print job, to the printer.
Dude,
Yeah,
And
but
we
that
we,
used
took a long time for people to figure that out. It was always that battle. Which is funny because last week when I was in Little Rock, I was onboarding some of our new hires here at ATG, and I was telling the story of how it used to be before Bluebeam. We have a large format printer in that office with a big roll of Mylar. I'm like, this is how it used to be, and absolutely that. If you had a multidisciplinary office, you'd be printing out one and somebody else is printing out another. The sets get mixed up. Somebody needs a different rotation or paper size and or media, and then it just becomes a big fight when you're all just trying to get it done by 5 o'clock on Friday. And we don't have to do that anymore.
yeah,
But some people still do.
some people still do. It's amazing. I've talked to some people recently and I'm just blown away that at this point we're not using some type of non paper solution, but I'm here to be the saving grace. So talk
yeah,
about the solution that is not printing out. I remember printing out. See, my thing was when we used to print out the fabrication design sets for windows and doors. The structural design sets we were doing, we were in the digital age by then. But when I was doing the windows and doors, we were printing out these production fab sheets and reprinting them for a fresh new set if we missed something in a
Yep.
production fabrication
mhm,
set. It's wild. It's like
Mm-hmm.
40 to 70 pages of these fab sheets that we just reprint. I just remember always looking at the recycle bin and it just be completely full of paper.
Well, and I know I got started, 'cause being an old guy here, I got started before recycling was a thing, right? And even when recycling was a thing, the office had to pay to have the recycling picked up. So it was just incredibly wasteful, even then some. Yeah, definitely, being a green lead guy these days, I feel really guilty about my early days in the industry for sure.
Well, the
No, and that was
cost too, like ink's not cheap.
Mm-mm,
I mean, paper's cheap, but
not really. I mean, $300 a roll, 250, $300 a roll, and then that works out to basically $3 a sheet. So the average plan set's $150 to print,
true.
and you waste
True.
that, gone. And I'm guessing firms don't equate that into their expenses.
No, they look at a software cost being $30 a month is too
Mhm.
expensive.
Yeah, there's that. We
You know,
still
the other
struggle with that with Bluebeam.
that other part of that was none of that, but you had your cube because we lived in cube world, in an engineering firm. And so you had, if you're working on multiple projects, you had different stacks of prints on your, red lines that you had to go through and keep track of all that. And it's like, wait a minute, no, that goes with that. And your desk was always cluttered.
Mhm.
Heaven forbid if you ever have a beverage at your, at your desk, and it's happened,
Mhm.
all of a sudden you just soiled all those sheets of paper all over the place. And
Yep, it
then,
happens.
yeah. The other part that you think about it, and I did experience this, is I was able to go out to a power plant that I was helping doing all the drafting and designing for. I was helping the engineers in the field with field verification, making sure that everything was connected correctly with all the wiring diagrams,
Mhm.
and just going through and just marking up, making sure that, the electricians had done this correctly. And then the engineers would go back as a double check. I'm carrying around all these 11 by 17s for these different systems, in a clipboard through a power plant, and then plus I have my hard hat and my safety equipment, and you're going through and having to verify all this information. I had to carry all those items with it, and then I had to take it back to the trailer, the staging area, and show, hey, here, these are all done, and then grab the next set of paper. And as soon as the engineers verified it, where did it go? Right into the trash. I mean, it was so much
Mhm.
so that
Yeah.
we had to take and buy printers just for this process.
Mhm.
And so we were constantly going through and doing that.
Yeah. David is saying that at one point made custom 12 by 19 clipboards just to be able to carry all those half-size sheets.
Yep.
Just ridiculous. But
Fun
there's still,
times.
I think, in the industry, people. I mean, I have conversations every week. Like, I can't let go of paper. I need that tactile experience of, measuring things because I don't trust anything digital. And I get that to a point, but we've moved on from flip phones for a reason. We've made progress in technology for a reason. We've let go of some of those things, but it's a weird world out there, man.
Yeah, I think it comes to like a lot of combination with workflow adoption,
Hmm.
people just having nostalgia, I guess, of workflows and fear of change. I think it's all of that combined into we have a deadline. What's the easiest way to get this deadline out that we're used to? We
Hmm.
know works. I think it's a big combination of, some folks may not know how to implement it. They're afraid to do training. It's just a huge combination. And I think you just have to have a partner that helps you push that needle forward. Um, and some people just don't know that there are folks like that out there. So
Absolutely.
Yep. But hitting on that nostalgia, right? So the three of us all wanted to be architects at some point. I know for me, it was seeing those schematic drawings and those pencil sketches of like a rough thing of a house. And you don't get to see that very much anymore. I've got a couple architect friends who still do that for fun, or they'll do it for clients or stuff, but everybody's moved to a digital thing. Then a couple months ago, when I was able to tour that Frank Lloyd Wright house, there was Frank Lloyd Wright sketches, and seeing it like blend into the countryside and everything. And I was like, man, that's what used to get me excited. That's what I wanted to be. And I still believe there's still some love there, but I don't know if that nostalgia has fully transferred over. Now I think of other folks who probably just do that in their fun spare time for fun, and it's no longer a career. But it's fascinating how some of those habits are still there, but we've got the whole world ahead of us.
I mean, I talked to someone the other day that still does it, and then has hand sketches it, and then has their design team design it.
Mm-hmm.
So
isn't that what was it Frank Gehry who does that? Who will either just create a model or something weird, like, or just make it happen. I think Alex would know.
Matt knows he's on too, but he's probably multitasking. But yeah,
No.
I mean, there's still people that are passionate about that part of the design, that they like to hand draw things. And I still think, it's just one of those things that will, I don't want to say eventually phase out, right? I think it's just a different type of generation that finds passion through an outlet of design through software versus through hand drawn. Does that make sense? Like your passion transfers from generation to generation of what becomes accustomed to. And I think at some point we'll reach the generation that no longer sees that as the, what would you say, like the golden piece of what they like, you're like, I want to just see that. I think at some point we'll transfer out of that.
No, it's a lost art too. I mean, I still have my drafting supplies, so I still have my square, have all my triangles on my drafting board. I have all my pencils. I even have a packet of 36 by 24 sheets sitting up in the closet upstairs.
French curve.
I do too right here. I used to
Yeah.
have a drafting table. Like, where do you put that drafting table now? Like, like all the good stuff that we used to have, there's just no room for it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Multiple ink pens too.
Yeah.
You got to have your 0.5 and your 0.7, your 0.9, and yeah.
Yes, I remember. But, it was a lost art too, just setting up your, make sure your paper's squared on your board and just going through that, the whole setting up. And of course, when I was still playing with the drafting board, I was manually setting up my title blocks and, laying those all out. And then, of course, having a scumbag sitting ready there to keep your drawing nice and cleaning your equipment.
Those are the days.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone's just commenting like, Alex came from industry. She said some folks still do it. Yeah, I think it's just a generational thing. At some point, it'll just, and maybe you'll have a resurgence of it, right? Just like anything. But I think at some point it will probably be a phased out thing. But again, it's one of those things where that was a generational thing, right? And we're still not past that generation of innovation of design that was their passion, right? So
see, Matt's talking, he still loves hand drawing 2-point perspectives. Absolutely. I mean, I've done it for fun.
It's artistic. It's a work of art. I agree.
You guys just need to transfer your art to other things like plants and aquariums, okay, so that we can get on with technology. I'm just kidding. You can all send me hate messages after this.
No, I think that creativity does spark something in your brain, though, that does give you that dopamine hit or some sort of, reward that is still exciting to play with every now and then.
Absolutely.
Very cool, right? So, side note, we're going to take a break from the technical conversation because I know you're a Kansas City boy who knows his way around some barbecue. So, without saying Kansas City, I'm going to make you pick Memphis style barbecue or Carolina style barbecue.
Wait, what's the difference?
The sauce.
Okay, so wait, there's I know, I kind of know what barbecue is, I guess. I don't know, maybe not really, right?
Oh, Michael, we're gonna have to. I'll take you
Yes.
to my spot in Phoenix next time I'm there.
Okay, yeah, because
Did you get any at the tech summit?
Yeah, because you brought some, right?
Yeah, I
no, I
brought
didn't
some.
have any of the ones that you brought. I had like the pulled pork that we had that one time at in the convention center thing. That's it.
Nah, well, oh, I'll make sure you get some next time. Next time
There you go.
we're in the same place. So my question, I like Carolina a little bit more. I like the vinegar based sauce.
Every
That
now and
little the
yeah.
tang in it, you know.
So what do you consider barbecue? Like pulled pork, like we're talking like turkey legs, or we're talking like
If it's been smoked, it's all barbecue.
oh well, I have a smoker and I like to smoke my steaks and stuff. Like I'll even like a sirloin or something, I'll smoke it and then I'll sear it, right?
That works too.
I
Yeah,
did.
Not technically,
Is
you
that
wouldn't
not it?
find that at a
Okay.
barbecue restaurant, but
Yeah, you guys are talking like I did a pork butt once. I'll never do it again because it took like 16 hours. It's
yeah,
ridiculous.
yes,
that's the good stuff though.
yeah.
Yeah, it
That's the
took
good stuff.
forever.
Yeah.
I
Setting
did it
alarm
before.
clocks, get up in the morning, go foil wrap it and base. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
it
hobby.
was.
You're not old enough yet. You need an old man hobby. I think
I
that's what
did
it
it.
is.
Well, what the thing was I did is I was like, let me do this for the boys' snowboarding trip, right? Before we head out. And I literally did it the night before. So I was up all night rushing the smoke and I
Hmm.
didn't get any sleep before we took off. It was ridiculous. So I was like, never doing it again.
Oh, yeah.
You got to love it so much that you just want to do it. You just have the energy for it because you have to keep the fire going.
Well, I have a
Uh,
Traeger, so
oh,
I cheat. I'm one of
Oh, it's
those
totally cheating, but
generational
I'm in.
people. Uh, I plug it in. I plug in the little thermometer. That's what I did because I did it because you said you're going to smoke a turkey this year, right, Jason?
Every year I do.
Yeah, I did one this one year where it was a Guinness brine.
Nice.
Yeah,
I usually have bourbon in one of my brines, but yeah, it's coming close to Thanksgiving. I see the leaves falling outside, so I just immediately start planning the menu. Yeah, we're doing smoked mac and cheese. We're doing smoked all the things.
how do
yeah.
you smoke mac and cheese?
Well, with a Traeger, it's like an oven, right? So you just instead of baking it in the oven, you bake
Oh,
it in the
okay.
Traeger at 350, and it's
The
Do
smoke
you
magical.
flavor.
do you use extra like an extra pellet solenoid for the triggers or no?
What's that?
To use an extra I bought an extra smoking solenoid to get more smoke because the trigger that I have isn't like the tube one, it's the one from Costco. It looks like a grill.
Oh, mine's got super smoke mode,
Oh
so
yeah,
it
mine does.
alternates the fan in there to do
Okay.
something. It's fine, but
I just have the old school offset smoker.
yeah.
I heard the egg is really good if you really want to learn to
Oh,
smoke, but you have to like I feel like it's too much work for me because you have to add wood into the smoker.
oh, but stuff off an egg is better than stuff off a Traeger. I'll say it,
Is it?
but it's
Okay.
a way more work. It's way heavier and harder to move around. But it's one of those art things. So now I'm going to tie it back together. People who still hand draw 2 point perspectives would love a big green egg. And then us more technical people would still like our Traegers because it's all Wi-Fi connected and you do your
100%.
other stuff. But I
Yeah.
think there's a correlation there between them. But I think talking about the passions, right? The passions of architecture, the passions of hand drafting, the passions of learning new things directly correlates to barbecue, right? Because like, well, what's a Carolina sauce? And now I'm just learning that, hey, what'd you say, Josh? There's a Western Carolina style and an Eastern Carolina style. So now I need to know this. So now that's in
Yeah.
my brain. Then I have to go road trip out there and figure this stuff out.
I
So,
forgot everyone's commenting on the charcuterie board. Like it's a grown up lunchable. That's such a good analogy.
oh yeah, absolutely.
If it's been
California style
smoked, it's
barbecue.
good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I didn't eat much of a breakfast, David, so I was hungry and it came up and just started thinking about the barbecue that Ray brought when we all got together in August.
Well, I didn't have any, so I feel left out.
Well, next
Between that
time I
and
have a plan for that for you,
Okay.
Michael.
yep,
As long as you have a plan. because I
Yes.
definitely didn't have any.
I'm gonna have to make 2 briskets.
So how are you gonna smoke anything for Thanksgiving then, or do you?
I'm thinking about, I need to talk to my in-laws, because we usually do Thanksgiving with my in-laws. So I'll see what they want. I kind of got a hankering, and now that Jason's really planted that bug in my ear, I really want to do something this year. So I'll probably be like him. I'll probably do a turkey. But
Yeah.
I take it a little bit different. I'll still smoke it, but I will inject it Cajun injection. I like to
So
use
you don't
Cajun
use a
butter.
brine? Do you brine it?
No,
Okay.
I'll use a Cajun butter injector, and it's the short man's, or the quick way of going through and brining it, because it's,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of liquid in there of salt that kind
So
of
then
go
you
through and
put
do
it
it.
like into the skin, right? Like between the skin and the.
No, it comes with the one I use is, it comes with like a syringe, and you inject it. So not just below the skin,
Oh, okay.
you actually push the, I get the butter sauce right into the meat of the turkey.
Mm, okay.
So now we're still talking about barbecue, and in the chat, they're talking about Texas barbecue being amazing. So I will fully admit the best barbecue I've ever had in my entire life was at Augie's in San Antonio. It was like one of those, and I'm not a very religious guy, but this is probably the closest I've been to a religious experience where like you take a bite and you're just like, oh boy, you sit back in your chair like this is it. You're gonna have to peel me out of the seat.
So what was it? What when you go to a barbecue place, what do you consider a barbecue meal?
Well, like
Like your
whenever I'm,
go-to to
it's got to
test.
be pulled pork, because that's
Okay.
every barbecue place is gonna have it, right? Just like every Mexican joint's gonna have, enchiladas. Those are my go-to, to compare, because I can't just like go here and get that and go here and get a brisket. It's not the same, right? So usually mac and cheese. If they got collard greens, I'm always getting collard greens, and then pulled pork or brisket. I
So
don't do chicken so much.
pulled pork with some type of barbecue sauce that they make.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The one I go for burnt ends.
Oh, there you go.
Because
What's that?
it's the, I think it's called the point on the um on the on the brisket. So it's part of the brisket, and it's a different muscle group, but they're all interconnected, and it's a little bit more flavorful because it has a little bit more fat content into it. And so they're cubed up, versus brisket's usually sliced
Hmm.
against the grain. And so brisket, is long strips, but the burn ends are, like I said, it just, it's in little 1-inch cubes.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, different restaurants go through and they'll do pork or they'll do beef. But I like to do burn ends, and that tells me how well it goes from there.
So
There you go.
let me ask you two a question. So my buddy's wedding's coming up on Monday, right? I'm having everyone over on Sunday, and I'm supposed to cook dinner for them. I was gonna either do hamburgers or steaks. Should I do something that's barbecue on the Traeger?
Yeah, it's way easier.
But how?
Yeah.
So I would need something that I would start in the morning, and then we'd have dinner, right? But
Yeah,
I need to go to the rehearsal, so something that needs to be also hands off on the Traeger. What do you think?
you can just make it on Saturday and then reheat it on the Traeger for Monday. That way
Yeah.
it's going to be done on time, because the leftovers just get better, right? You don't. It doesn't have to.
How long does it take on Saturday?
Depends
It
on
depends what
what
you
you get.
get.
Yeah, go to Costco, get a big pork butt, and it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
I'll send you a recipe.
Okay.
Yeah. Pork's
But
more forgiving.
mm-hmm,
I've
absolutely.
done ribs on there. You consider that barbecue? I've done ribs
Yes.
on the Traeger. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Anything that's smoked, and it's slow, because you got grilling, which is direct inside
Well,
there, but the Traeger's making smoke. It's producing heat and it's making smoke. So that's how
yeah.
I define barbecue. So it's a slower process. It's a lower temperature.
Do you prefer pork ribs or what's the other ribs?
beef
Yeah, beef
Beef.
ribs.
or corn ribs now. That's a thing.
Hmm.
So I haven't tried
No,
that.
Like actual corn though, right?
Mhm.
Like, so that would be something for my vegan buddy, right?
Yeah, like corn on the cob, corn
No
ribs.
way.
Yeah,
I
they
need to
look
look those
amazing. I
up.
haven't found them yet, but I've totally derailed this conversation. Probably, maybe for the better. But hey, now I'm hungry.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I've got no barbecue for lunch, but it is what it is. So back on track, Ray.
All right.
We got about 15 minutes left here. Talking about, your journey into the industry. You've just stuck, you started architectural and then it just became electrical and stayed there the whole time. Now in MEP, you've also got mechanical and you've got plumbing. If you had to pick a side to jump to into those adjacent industries, which side would you go to?
I lean a little bit more to the mechanical side.
Hmm.
Interesting. Why mechanical?
It it's it ties into electrical. So when you start dealing with, all the equipment that pushes the air through the systems, it ties into that. So there's that familiarity with it. But it's also, I just thought it was interesting because like when I was working with the mechanicals, even though I was doing electrical and I understood that because I've had a lot of experience with it, I thought the mechanical was really interesting as well. And so it drew to it. When I first introduced into the industry, the plumbing side wasn't as fascinating. Plumbing's cool. My experience of working with, Revit and the MEP side of things has taught me a lot more about plumbing and how it works in my house. And so it really has helped me think about what am I doing with everything. But I lean more to, the mechanical side of it.
Interesting. I always think it's funny when, when I'm working on onboarding, we bring in new MEP folks. They're very much, yeah, I'm electrical, I'm plumbing, I'm mechanical, but we still call them MEP. Like, all of them, right?
Yeah.
No, not really. Some people do, but for the most part, you pick a team and you stay there.
Yeah, unless you're at a firm that has multi, right, that's doing both mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and then you're probably getting flavor of all and
Mhm.
picking what you're strongest in or what you're passionate about, I guess, and then you're going from there, right?
Yeah. And then when you work at a multiple disciplinary firm, that helps, depending on where the workload, hey, we need help over here. And when I was first introduced in the industry, that's what happened. You would help out. You wouldn't do the complex designs of the mechanical system, but you could do the basic modeling of it. Same with the structure side, as long as, and a lot of times it was more, redrawing, a concrete pad to place your equipment on for the structure
Mhm.
side. And you understand the basics, make sure you line everything up. It can only be this thick, so you would model it. So you kind of get the idea of going through what they were going. And we had some cool tools too to kind of learn a little bit more with it. So you did get that discipline. And then there was a stint too, Jason, where I did 6 months as a civil drafter. So
Oh
I've
wow.
done some digital dirt work as well, as I like to call it.
Digital dirt work. I like that.
What
That's,
were you using?
Civil 3D.
And I took advanced civil 3D classes, and still to this day, it blows me away at how complex it is.
It's grown so quickly over the years. I mean, just seeing what they're doing within it, it'd take me a moment or two if Jeff calls up, hey Ray, I need some help with some civil 3D work. I'm gonna be like, Jeff, I haven't touched it in years.
well,
I don't
we
even have
got
it installed on my machine.
I got Revit installed, so there's that.
Whoa, I
Whoa.
think I think ever since Jason joined the people team, he's turned a new leaf to this side.
Yeah, one of these days I'm actually going to draw something in it, but for now I open up the demo drawings and I like look what it can do, and then that's it. Watch me break everything. But all good. So tell me about the next thing that you want to learn.
The next thing I want to learn, there's several things that I'm really passionate about and I haven't been able to execute on here. So I'm kind of falling behind on my personal development, but it's always been a dream. And you guys are going to think I'm crazy about it. And we kind of talked about it offline before, is I want to achieve that BCI. I want to become a Blue Line certified instructor.
I don't think we'd ever think you're crazy about it.
No,
It's a great course on, yeah, we had Scott on, who's one of the leads of that. It's a great course for, and there's other people. Is there anyone in here who took it recently from across the pond that got it? But it's a great
Yeah,
course.
Vince
Yeah,
got it. Yeah.
Vince. It's a great course to be a better instructor as well.
right.
From that perspective and how adults learn. So that's one of the main factors of why I love that course, is because it really teaches you how adults learn, the different teaching methods, and how we retain information. I think that's the best part. Yeah.
So that's one of them. The next one that I really want to get into as well, and it's on the Revit side. So Alex, I know you're out there. We've already talked, but it's the Dynamo Python side of things.
Well, that's an amazing, scary world
I
that
know.
seems more logical than it is, but then it is at the same time, it's not as hard as you think it is, but it's harder than you think it is. I don't know
Yeah.
how to put that, but I've played with it a little bit, but I know we've got a couple whizzes here, Alex included.
Yes.
But there you go. That'd be fun to play with some more,
Yeah.
especially if we could round trip it and start. Let's say that there was a Dynamo for Bluebeam, or Python for Bluebeam. That'd be
We have
interesting.
Dynamo for Civil 3D, and so it's one step away from AutoCAD. I mean, it's so why not for Bluebeam, automate and versus scripting. Yeah. So, and then the last one would be Plant 3D. That's another beast of a software. And again, it goes into the process piping on the mechanical side. That I always thought that was intriguing. When I was at Sega, worked with a guy, his name was Chris, and he was instrumental at moving Sega into Plant 3D from, I forget, one of the other ones, one of the other plant-based software. And it was really interesting watching him integrate that into the workflow and training the team up. That captivated me. And so when my opportunity came to move on, it's like, that's what I want to do, is I want to help clients learn something and then integrate it into their system so they can be more efficient.
Yeah, I think one of the big things about being on this side of the industry is your true passion for helping others shines through, because this is really where you're problem solving for folks in the industry with the extra time of being able to find those things, right? When you're
Right.
in industry, there's no time. You're trying to hit deadlines. There's work always coming in. We have that extra time, and that problem solving, helping others, is really where this side shines. And like you're saying, that's why I keyed into that part, because that's where, and maybe there's other things, and people can say what those are, but for me, it's that helping, like you picked up, right? Like
Yeah,
helping others, instructing, and seeing that fruitfulness be planted to them. So
absolutely. I'm glad you're able to just kind of narrow it down. And I do. I love helping. The other thing too that's really great about working here at ATG is it's never a dull moment. It is, you're shifting gears, you're moving on to the next thing. So, 1 minute I'm writing up a scope of work, next minute I'm jumping on a call, I'm working with tech support to troubleshoot. I'm coming up with, training syllabi for different clients, and we're just going through and just kind of setting everything up. So it's never a dull moment.
All right, that's
yes,
one thing that I've always I tell the new people coming in. It's like, you're not working for one firm anymore. You're working for 10 firms, and over
Yes.
the course of the year, that could mean 50 firms. And that
yeah.
challenge that comes with it, some people, the light bulb goes off and they're like, yeah, bring it on. I like that challenge. Other people are like, well, I like structure.
Well, I guess it just depends on like someone's needs. Someone could work for someone dedicated for that firm for such and such amount of time.
Mhm.
It just comes down to the niche. But yeah, that true passion of finding not finding problems, problem solving, and listening to finding out what the true problem is from people's issues, right?
Yes.
Exciting.
Well, with that, next week, Artley, you will be solo.
Maybe I'll see.
Maybe.
Maybe I'll pull in a special guest. We'll see what happens.
I know Jason will find someone.
I'm not even sure what our topic is supposed to be, but
Me neither.
We'll have some fun.
I created the topics, by the way, everyone listening in, and I don't know what it is, but it's something good. But thanks, Ray, for joining us today, talking about your passion, talking about your next goals. So we'll see at some point when you get your BCI, we'll have you back on so you can talk about that course and how, that fruition of goals. Goal setting is definitely key, I feel like, for success for most folks. And we'll keep you accountable for that.
I know. That's why I love you guys that's why I love working here, because I have a team of people that are going to help me and I'm going to help them.
Absolutely.
Who's coming from the MEP team? Josh will be at AU. Ray, you won't be at AU, right?
No, unfortunately,
okay.
Josh will be there. Unfortunately, I will not.
Not you, Joshua. It sounds like you'll be there. We're saying Josh, our director of MEP, will be there. Yeah.
Yes.
But with that, thank you for joining us today, Ray, taking the time out of your day to join us and tell us a little bit more of depth of what you did in the industry. I'll let you close this out, Mr. Early. You're way better at it than me.
No, I was just going to say, thanks, Ray. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to our Espresso Yourself edition. Next week will be a more technical one. Looks like it's going to be on customizing interfaces and workflows and things like that. So it'll be a good time. We'll get into profiles and all sorts of fun stuff. Otherwise, if you've got ideas for what you'd like us to cover, shoot us a message, put it in the survey, put it in the YouTube chats, put it wherever you can get it. You know how to find us. Because we're just, like Michael said, him and I take turns picking on the topics. Some of you have added what you've liked us to cover, and we're always here for you. So until next time, we will see you soon. Stay safe and enjoy the fall.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks again, Ray. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone.